Whoa. Welcome to the TreasureTreeTherapy Planners Podcast. I'm your host, Brandon O, also known as Master Cheeze, here for another brand new episode on the TreasureTreeTherapy Planners Podcast. We're going to talk about 3 different subjects today, try to keep it nice and short. First one, update on Aaron Rodgers and his injury, surgery, recovery. Up next, Colorado football. Primetime Sanders. Thirdly, we'll end with Nick Chubb's and his injury, a little bit of history, and kind of get you guys up to date. But before we start, I want you to listen to the reason why we have this podcast. There are a lot of different sources out there. A lot are credible, reliable sources. But this is the only source that has all 3. When I say all 3, my background includes being a therapist, being able to play collegiate sports, indoor professional, and thirdly, experiencing some injuries that usually people do not recover from. My insights, my opinions, my thoughts are also used with facts to help the viewers, fans connect with what's going on in today's sports, and athletes who are also dealing with injuries to kind of give more knowledge and information so that we can continue to move forward. And that's what we do here, planting seeds today for future generation success. But before we get into it, I want you to like, share. You can subscribe if you would like. And again, we're going to move forward. So first thing we're going to touch on is Aaron Rodgers. Okay. So Aaron Rodgers was able to go through a successful surgery Wednesday, 2 days after he experienced the injury. And from what I read, what's being said, is that the injury and the surgery, everything's kind of on track with going well. But Aaron is a little bit different. Personality is a little different. He is a Hall of Fame quarterback. But as he was able to recall and go over some of the interviews he's been doing, is on that field, he was able to let us know that he knew he tore it. And that's common with athletes who kind of experience something. There is something different that goes on when you experience an injury like that. So for Aaron Rodgers, he did say that he felt and he knew that something was off. He was able to get surgery from a very well-known, very credible surgeon, Neil. Neil has been doing a lot of different surgeries with high-profile athletes. Notably, he with one of his interviews, Aaron mentioned how he worked with Neil before and how Neil worked on his collarbone. So very reputable, and I believe the doctors know what they're doing. Very credible, great doctors, and they wouldn't be who they are if they weren't good at their job. So that's just the point that I wanted to kind of bring up. Just give you a nice little timeline. And he did something different though this time. So Achilles injuries have traditionally been used with certain techniques, but there's an up and coming different technique called the speedbridge, is what Aaron Rodgers, which was used on Aaron Rodgers' Achilles injury. So the only difference with this is that the prognosis is supposed to be a little bit sooner, a little bit faster of the recovery piece, and so there is optimism that Aaron Rodgers will return during the postseason. So that's all possible. And as you can listen here of how Aaron Rodgers and his mindset going into next season.
Give me the doubts. Give me the timetables. Give me all the things that you think can, should, or will happen. Because All I need is that one little extra percent of inspiration. That's all I need.
And so with his thoughts, you can tell that Aaron Rodgers is not really the one who wants the credibility and wants the hype. He wants to be the underdog. He wants people to feel like he sucks and that he's not able to come back. And he needs that motivation as he goes on to his road for recovery. Now, the thing about his recovery is they said he could be out for about 4 months, give or take, depending on how well he recovers. But this is the real question: easy come, easy go. You know, we use a lot of science to validate certain things that we do. And I believe that Aaron Rodgers will recover. I believe he will come back, but I think that his situation will be a little different. Again, he is 39. He also has been said that he has had calf issues before, and that has been bothering him.
Before even an MRI, I knew what happened. I knew I'd torn my Achilles, and I had popped my calf, a few times, especially the soleus, and this was not that sensation. So I knew right away this was not a good situation. So
So the piece that is from a therapeutic standpoint and an athlete who's recovered from these things is that your tendons do come out clean, they come out good, and you do feel fresh. You know, they haven't experienced trauma, they haven't experienced stress, just the daily stress of getting stronger, getting better. But when you tap into the neurological aspect of an injury and recovering, there are a lot of different pieces that doctor can't achieve for Aaron Rodgers. And so he needs to put himself in an environment that challenges his neurological system if he wants to make that recovery coming into January. That's something I specialize in. It's something that I'll continue to try to develop and get better at. But I think that would be the missing piece for him, even if he was to wait till next year. The neurological system is the biggest and most important piece, especially for athletes returning from injury. So there was kind of like some jokes about him kind of using frequencies from dolphins, which, you know, is not a bad idea. Frequencies help heal. But if we're going to think outside the box, I think that Treasure Street Therapy should be one of those bodies in the room to kind of help provide as much information if he wants to recover and be a high profile athlete. There's some other things that you can do. You know, cats have been traditionally used for healing at the calf area. So just a lot of things we can throw out there, but I'm just going to move forward into the part that I was trying to get at with Aaron Rodgers is when you have something like a new technique being used, no one knows. And so Aaron Rodgers is motivated. He wants the doubters to show up and he wants the people to say that he can't do it. And that's a good mindset. But a lot of boxes still have to be checked. And so it's to be determined to see what he'll do. But, you know, best of luck to Aaron Rodgers. Although I am a Chicago Bears fan, I do not like injuries. And so uh, we'll leave it at that. Aaron Rodgers, you got my number. Okay. Now we're going to get into the most exciting time. The most exciting time. You know, give me 1 second right now. I gotta go back and change my little wardrobe. Prime time. I gotta use a little voice because it makes it a little bit better. But what a game! What a game! What a game! What a game! Man, that was such a game. Um, Watching that game, you can tell what kind of atmosphere and what kind of person uh, Coach Prime was. I know a lot of the headlines kind of came down to Henry Blackburn and his hit on Hunter. Um, but football is a very dangerous sport, and war is war, and there are no rules in war. Although, as fans, we do want the integrity of the game to be sustained, but he had a shot at a player, a big time player, and that changed the trajectory of the game. So he kind of did his job for his team, whether you like it or not. The referees let him get away with that. Now I think that the rule needs to change. If a player gets hit like that, they get injured, that player needs to also leave that game as well. He needs to be taken out of the game just as well as the player does. So the player did what he did, not agreeing with the hit. But I think a lot of that falls on the referee. So Going to move past that point. Just the hit has been getting a lot of news, but the biggest point is that we need to look at Coach Prime and his thoughts and what he kind of goes through. Listen to these words carefully that I'm about to say. Coach Prime is not a great coach. Coach Prime is a great preparer. Now, I'm going to break down what I mean by that. There are a lot of coaches that have a lot of coaching tips and a lot of coaching ideas, and it sounds great on paper. You implement them and you kind of lose, right? You know, you say, I need to run this play, you run this play, and you do these things, and it doesn't work. Coach Prime doesn't do the coaching aspect. He focuses on the preparation. Now, you see Henry Blackburn takes out one of their elite players. What is the response of the team supposed to be? They're supposed to get at it. You want to get Aggie. You want to go get back at them. And that's usually how you lose games like that. Your emotions get the best of you. You don't execute. You start losing games. But if you watch the film, if you watch that tape, yes, Sanders got into him. He's supposed to. You need somebody that's going to gut check a team and defend his guys. But overall, they played a solid game. They didn't get dirty. They didn't get a lot of penalties in terms of retaliation. But you can tell on the other side, the coach was coaching. You know, he had his guys up. That team was winning. They was ready. They were ready to go home, hang up the banner, and let everybody know they took down Colorado. But that's the part they did not prepare for the preparer. Now, it is a rivalry game, and things can get really chippy. You can tell that the coach on the other side delivered the message to be a little bit nasty and vicious, but they lost sight of the game. And a lot of their nastiness and dirtiness is what cost them that game. They had penalties. They really weren't prepared for the moment of actually winning. They were just coached to just win the game. They weren't prepared to win that game. And that's what cost them. And that's where you can see the difference with Coach Prime and the Colorado Buffaloes. Coach Prime did a great job of preparing his guys for being able to stick it through in the moment. In that moment in time, a lot of things are going against you, and he's sticking to the process, kicking the field goal when many coaches would not have kicked field goals, setting his guys up for the long haul. And that's the difference right now when you look at Coach Prime. It's not just the X's and O's. He's preparing his guys to go on the war. I will say, watching the film, he's still learning the game, which he has been admitting he's still a student of the game. You know, he looks up to Nick Saban as someone who's done it, and he respects him highly. He goes into games and he coaches in that game. He makes adjustments in that game. So when you see a team like that, they're prepared for the game. They're getting coached as the game goes on. They're making adjustments as the game goes on. And that's the difference between him and a lot of coaches in the league that kind of stick to what they do and they don't change within the game. So shout out to Coach Prime and what he did for that. It's unfortunate to see what could have been, which we will never know. But you can tell the energy in the room when you talk about Coach Prime in Colorado and how they don't. A lot of fans may like the excitement, but they're not really there for the. They're not really there for you. They're ready. They're ready for the downfall. They're ready to chastise. They're ready to criticize. They're ready for it all. So until that day happens, we need to continue to give him his flowers while we can, because he's doing a very awesome job and changing the program around that didn't have too many wins. So kudos to Prime Time. All right, cool. Going to get into the last piece. I want to try to keep these videos short, just some information that we get into. So I'm going to take these off for a more serious matter. Um, Nick Chubb experienced a season-ending injury. Monday Night Football. It was tough to watch, and I know a lot of Browns fans are kind of having an ill feel of the situation. And what is his prognosis? You know, can he bounce back? Uh, a good piece of that is looking at the history of him experiencing the same situation happening when he was in Georgia in 2015. Um, it's comparable to have an injury and recover. As you can see, Nick Chubb is one of the best in the league, and he experienced such a traumatic injury. The difference though now is age. You know, that's not a he's not a teenager anymore experiencing injuries. He's an adult at the age of 27. He's hitting into that window of 30 years where the body really changes and flips on you metabolically. And so he'll have a challenge to try to do what he did before, but he's fighting Father Time. And the piece I want to add to that is I don't see there being any issues with Nick Chubbs and how he'll recover from his injuries. I think that he'll hit the weight room, he'll hit his rehab like he did with any other thing. But the piece that needs to be considered, and a lot of people miss this, is that the neurological system still needs to be addressed. The neurological system still needs to be addressed. You can get away with it when you're younger. The body is not as beat up then, but when you start to get older, you have these nagging injuries that stem from a previous injury that the nervous system has not fully released. Um, One of the techniques that specialize in is neurological interventions such as Square One, which I've explained. You can check out my channel. I kind of do a decent explanation. But no, regardless of my words, you have to experience the technique to really understand it. And it's one of the few techniques that help address neurological injuries. So, you know, Odell Beckham battling back, um, Barkley's battling back. All these guys do a wonderful job with their recovery. And again, hats off to them, the trainers, their doctors. They're doing what they're supposed to do. But again, my opinion is based off of the three different attributes that I have that is very unique in the whole world of sports. Therapist, athlete, and I experienced in injuries like this. Coming back from that, there are a lot of things that are involved in tendon repair and tendon recovery. Performance is one piece, recovery is the other piece. They are both equally as important. So, a lot of different strategies that I've developed in my previous years of trying to experiment, looking at data, looking at science, and seeing what is that I can do to kind of get better and what works and what doesn't work. And so those are some of the pieces I kind of wanted to throw out to you. So for Nick Chubbs, best of luck to you in your rehab. Um, Again, I can see him still being an animal coming back. The only piece that was unique to him in 2015 was that he didn't tear his ACL. A lot of the ligaments that he had injured with exception to the PCL, kind of had a decent amount of blood flow where you can kind of get to on a superficial level. The ACL, they haven't really released any information about the extent of the injury, but assuming that it is or isn't the ACL, it will also put a damper in his recovery piece as well. So that's all I got for you all today. I'm trying to keep it short again. A lot of information, but again, you can check out the website. You can email me at treasuretreetherapy@gmail.com, and you can check out the website, treasuretreetherapy.com. Treasure Tree Therapy, planting seeds today for future generations' success. Out.